Hi, everyone. Hi, Charlene. And hi, Gary. Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Okay,
Thanks for having me on.
Oh, no, it's a pleasure. We've been talking for a while on Discord, and I'm really interested to hear about your game and, how it came to be. But first, how about you tell us a bit about yourself?
Yeah. So I'm Gary, also known as Permanent DM. I'm the creator of the game Almighty Die. I've been gaming for a long time. My first spot as a DM was, I think it's October 27th, 1999.
Oh,
The DM at the time didn't want to run a game that night because he had a Halloween adventure he wanted to do. So I ran it for a night, and I was like, "Oh, I'll just do this once," and then I was hooked. So I've been running games ever since. Usually, somewhere to the tune of about 2 games a month when I'm on my off rhythm, and then when I'm running more, generally speaking, in somewhere in the range between 4 to 5 games a week.
Ooh, that was a very slippery slope.
Yeah. And I tend to kind of go through I'm not running very much for a little while, maybe 6 months, 6 to 9 months. And then I'll run a ton, and then I'll kind of do that for a year or two. And then I'll go back to these sort of cycles.
Okay, and I just asked you before the stream started, but you've been working on your game, All Mice Die, for 3 years now. So
yeah. So this is year 4, and the name has changed 3 times. So maybe it'll be a 4th time. Hopefully not. But yeah, we started working on the game, or I started working on the game in 2022. And I wasn't planning on making it its own game. It was going to be just, I have this idea from this game and this idea from this game. I'm going to mash them together with some house rules and then just run that. And then one of the people that went to join told me they weren't going to join because they loved playing in my games. They liked the idea, but since they didn't know either of the systems that I was using as a base, he was like, I don't want to learn 3 completely different systems to play in one game. That's insane. And I was like, crap, I have to make my own game now.
What were you basing it on at the time?
So the original 2 games were Mouse Ritter and Axe, so Adventure Conqueror Kings.
Well.
Yeah, I'd played in a Mouse Ritter game that I'd really enjoyed, and I'd played in a Adventure Conquer Kings game that I'd really enjoyed. And I was like, oh man, I like some pieces of this, and I really don't like some pieces of this. I'm gonna sort of strip the things for parts. And then I realized, no, I have my own ideas about a lot of things that I need to add in.
Yeah, but smooshing systems together is a lot of fun. Okay, and Campaign Terrain is saying, hi Cross, by the way. Oh, nice. Makes me feel not so bad about having been working on mine for 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, if you're passionate about it and you have a lot of ideas, then you can really noodle on things for a long time. One of the only things that was really important for me when I was working on it was to not be working on the game system for very long and then not be actively playtesting. So we were playtesting, as soon as we had a vague idea of what we wanted to do. And then every time we were like, okay, we've playtested a bunch, let's go through the cycle of revisions and things. But that cycle has an end date, right? Where we're always, when we stop playtesting, we don't stop playtesting until we know when the next start of the playtesting is going to be, so that we are never kind of in the state of like, oh, I don't think it's ready to do X, Y, or Z yet. And then we don't get a game run.
Yeah, makes sense. I mean, I think it's the same in software engineering. It's like, if you just work, and just leave the testing at the end, it's like, and only do testing once, that's a recipe for failure.
Yeah. And we had so many things that I thought were really good ideas that when we put them in front of the players, they didn't like. And that's really nice that we were able to do that sort of right after having the idea, or maybe within a couple of months after having the idea and putting it into place. And then to have the players go, we really don't like this aspect of it. So, take that whole thing and just chuck it in the trash and sort of take what lessons from that to move forward to put in our design document.
Yeah, I figure that's super important, because if it stays in there too long, you're just going to be building more stuff on top of that, and it's going to be very difficult to take out later.
Yeah, and it's especially interesting, I think, because at least as designers, we kind of get in our head that we have this like, oh, we have this idea and we have this mode of operation, and then we want to apply it to everything imaginable in the game, which can be good. Like a unified idea can help you intuit a lot of rules of the system, but there might be certain things that don't work very well when it's applied specifically. And the one that I'm thinking of is there's a game by Free League called Symbaroum, and they have a very interesting way of doing damage where all monsters deal a static amount of damage. Say a troll is going to do 4 damage, and each player rolls a die to reduce the incoming damage that they take. So instead of the monster rolling damage, and then maybe the player's having damage resistance that's a static number, it's you flip it, right? To where like a heavily armored character, if they might have like a 1d6 plus 1 as their thing, where a 4 damage is very unlikely to do anything to them. And since one of our general rules was to have the players roll as many of the rolls as possible, that was like, oh, this seems like a natural fit. And it was really disliked. It was very, very strongly disliked if the GM was not the one rolling damage, which would not have come out if we didn't play test it a bunch.
Yeah, that's interesting because I see quite a lot of people who are like really into having as much player-facing stuff as possible. So yeah, that's an interesting thing.
Yeah, it's interesting to me because the game has a very strong, as much things can be player facing as possible is there. When you make an attack against a monster, you're rolling your attack roll, comparing it against the monster's defense. If the monster attacks you, you're rolling your defensive check against the monster's attack. And so it felt like a natural thing to do that with damage. But even when people were rolling damage reduction against static numbers, people felt like they were dealing damage to themselves. And so now damage is one of the only things that a DM or a GM actually rolls in our system.
Yeah, it's one of those things where kind of mechanically there's no difference, but there's this kind of perception of something which makes it unpleasant. Yeah.
And it was one of the big things when we were coming from other editions. One of the things that bothered me when I was running a lot of 5e, because I did run a ton of 5th edition when it came out, and I always felt it was really irritating especially when you were using a limited resource like a spell slot, and you cast a spell, and then the target makes a save against your charm or whatever it is, and then the DM rolls well, and then the thing fails. Well, even if the DM needed to roll, say, a 14 or better versus you needing to roll a 6 or better, where it's mechanically the exact same percentages of the things happening, for whatever reason, in the heads of the players and myself as a player, it felt like I didn't have control over the spell that I was casting. It felt like, oh, I cast the spell, I use this resource, and because my DM's rolls are on fire today, I do nothing. And where if I rolled the 2 on my side, then like it doesn't make any difference that I rolled the 2 rather than the DM rolling the 19. It feels different. It feels more like I have control over my own actions.
Yeah, it does. It does. But how about you tell us a bit about the game itself? Because right now, all I know about it is that it's a game about playing very badass mice.
I mean, initially, you're not very badass mice, but you want to get there. That's the goal. So I say that it is OSR inspired rather than an OSR game. Because what we really were trying to do was trying to encapsulate this feeling that I had from playing a very heavily homebrewed version of D&D 2nd edition when I was much younger. And in those games, the early levels were a meat grinder, like, a random crossbow trap and you're dead. Reroll your character, carry on. But like by the time that you played for a little while and maybe you had 5 or 6 or 7 levels, you had like 4 custom magic items that were probably way stronger than they should be. And you had some sort of narrative nonsense that you got from being the lord of this magical keep, or, you had all of this other stuff that everybody would add in that are not typically even in the rules. But you would evolve out of the idea of being a squishy adventurer. And that's not truly how the actual OSR rules tend to work. But that was what I remembered, and that was the thing that I wanted to play. So, when you play the early levels of All My Sty, you are very squishy. You really do not want to get into a combat. Even if you have a combat with an overwhelming advantage, if anything goes wrong and they get a chance to come back at you, someone is probably going to die from that. So it has this idea of like really survival horror at low levels. But then the way that the game is designed, the players are designed to outscale the monsters. So a level 1 monster versus a level 1 hero is a horror encounter, right? We're probably going to die. But a level 7 hero versus a level 7 monster, this is a fight I can just set up and take, right? This is more of your standard heroic D&D sort of stuff. Mm-hmm. And if you have like a level 10 hero versus a level 10 monster, this is going to be you explaining how you take them out rather than it really being a combat, right? And that idea of being able to sort of progress out of the OSR was very important to me, and does mean that different people really latch on to different sort of avenues of play when they play the game.
How's it?
Well, the idea, another one of the big pieces, is that you're not playing a single character. You're playing a noble family of mice. And because each of your characters is by default a nobleman, that means a lot of the basic things that maybe your standard, very low-level OSR adventurers would care about is irrelevant. How many rations can we afford? Can we get a suit of better armor? Can we get a better shield? All that sort of stuff. If it's non-magical and not made of some sort of rare material, you can just say, oh, I bring that with me. I bring a spare sword. Or, I don't want to take the heavy shield today. I want to take the light shield so I can be faster on my feet. That sort of thing is built into the system, lets you hand wave some of the basic pieces. But because you have a stable of characters, because you're playing these guys with a shared family resource, right? So all of Family Winford, they have this, noble heirloom sword that only one of them can take on an adventure, and you probably need to be trusted by the family to come back alive in order to have the heirloom sword go out with you. You kind of have this stable of characters that are going to be mismatched in level, and you can sort of decide, hey, I kind of want to play the holding on by the skin of my teeth adventure, and I'm going to try to get other people to schedule, because the players schedule all adventures in All My Sty. We're going to try to schedule a low-level adventure because I'm jonesing for that kind of play. Or you can say, you know what, I've got a level 7 fighter. Let's go see what sort of bigger nonsense we can get into. Let me see if I can grab other people that have like 5s and 6s and 7s and 8s and see if we can go do something a little bit bigger. And that amount of agency to not only pick your level, but that picking your level changes the way that you approach the game, means you can sort of have what feels like 3 games in a trench coat, all in the same campaign and all with the same group.
See that James has joined us. Hello, DM with a day job.
Hello, James.
So you're saying that like your rule set includes stuff like scheduling a game, like this is how we schedule a game.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. So the rule set. Well, first of all, once we get it done, there is going to be a web app that is designed to let players not only keep track of their stable of characters and be able to have their items and things like that, but to be able to schedule. So it's built to work with Discord. You use your Discord to sign into it, and it uses something very akin to Scheduler, or I can't remember what the name of it, the scheduling bot that a lot of people use. My brain's not working right now, but there's a scheduling thing that lets it to where you can propose an adventure card and say, hey, we want to go see what's going on over there in the Dark Tower. And then you can say, this is what we plan on doing. And then you can have the app shows you when the DMs have open spaces in their schedule. And you can say, all right, well, I've got these 4 people or these 3 other people that want to go do this thing. DM, you've got a slot 51 right here, and it adjusts for your time zone. So you don't have to, try to figure that out in your head. Slot 51, you're free. Could you run the Black Tower adventure right there? And that's the default way that the game explains how scheduling your session works, where you don't have hey, try to get a Saturday, at 1 p.m. that everyone can be free at. No, you get the group to have a goal in mind, and then they can try to propose to put it on the schedule, which does a lot of stuff, right? It takes a lot of the herding cats things off of your game masters. But it also means that when a game gets scheduled, there is a goal in mind. And because these are all default one-shot adventures, people are going to be really motivated to do the goal if they're the ones that propose the goal, right? If we want to go to the Black Tower, but the whole reason we have the game is because I scheduled the game to go to the Black Tower, that's a hell of a motivation to actually go there.
As opposed to having one player say, "Now today I'm just going to sit in the tavern and roleplay and do stuff like that." Yeah.
Exactly. And those people can do that, right? But anyone that signs on to that mission is going to be kind of automatically buying into the goal. And maybe you get distracted and you do other things. That's perfectly fine. But you still have this thing of, okay, well, we are all agreeing that we have a shared objective that we want to go for. And as the campaign builds on, what happens and what we found out from the big playtest we did last year is that very quickly, once people get to level 4 or level 5, and you start to have those characters that can sort of babysit lower level characters, or you have characters that can sort of be a menace on their own, and you have these heroes, those heroes end up being like a social currency where you'll say, all right, we really need a fighter. We need a combat character to go to the Black Tower. Hey, Bo, could you bring your fighter, could you bring Teresa to the Black Tower? And they go, I really don't want to do that. I was actually wanting to bring Keith. I was wanting to bring my sorcerer. And then you go, okay, well, if you'll bring Teresa to the Black Tower, then I'll go with your sorcerer. I'll go with Keith to go into the Barony of the Weasel Lords next Wednesday. And you have this built-in social structure, which kind of keeps the engine of the community running just by the fact that you have a stable of characters that all have different desires and different abilities to play.
Yeah, it kind of sounds like, okay, if you do this job for me, I will babysit your kid brother next week.
Yeah, it does happen. And this might be a weird thing to go into at the beginning of the stream, but it occurred to me, so let's go there. One of the more complex and sort of weirder rules of the game is because you are a noble family, one of the things that noble families will do is arrange marriages and that sort of stuff. There is a system in the game for why you would want to do that. And specifically, it's called the Battleborn system. So the characters in world believe that if you give birth the day of a battle or the day of doing something heroic going on adventure, that those children are going to be born blessed. They're going to have some sort of supernatural qualities because it is the world rewarding you for this thing.
Kind of like having a particular star sign or something like that kind of thing?
Exactly. 100%, just like having a particular star sign. And what that then means is you then have these families or these players that are negotiating who is going to be, because only the family can only have one Battleborn attempt at a time. Who's going to be, all right, well, so I'm going to have this be the father and that'll be the mother. And this is what we're going to do. And then they might have this thing where they're like, okay, well, this, we know it's in this window of when they're likely to be born. So we have to have an adventure on one of these days in order to have the Battleborn kids. But the player might be like, well, the dad can't go on adventure that day. So my family is going to donate, our heirloom suit of magical armor or our special shield that is our family, or we're going to donate extra potions, or we're going to scout the way so that we can make the adventure easier. And it's just these elements that sort of churn the idea of the social dynamics, and playing together as a group is the core element of play.
No, I'll be honest. I mean, first of all, that sounds a lot like, we're going to marry the princess to this prince, and then we're going to have the court astrologers find the best date for whatever. And so that sounds interesting. But I'm also seeing a lot of game happening between games, which is also really, really cool. And
yeah, and it's interesting because we talk about how you can have like the big meaty, hey, I've got 4 hours to play type of being able to engage with the game. But you also have the little things of I've got 10 minutes, between doing something, to check Discord and flip through things and have a conversation. And if you have multiple ways that people can engage with stuff, then there's more game to play.
Yeah, definitely. So Salt Nick has joined us. Hi Nick, and we have a question from two questions actually from DM with a day job. How often do you feel that either A, the person with a high level character is being peer pressured into taking a character they don't want to, or B, that the lower level character starts to feel overshadowed by the high level character during an adventure?
So there have been a couple of instances where the A thing happens, but because the game sort of supports the idea of a give and take, how that actually ends up resolving is sometimes people will just straight up say, no, I'm just not going. Or sometimes they'll be like, they will default ask for something they don't think they can get. Like, I will take my fighter out on this adventure if you will give my sorcerer 3 of your scrolls from your family for my next adventure, right? Where they're like, I'm probably not going, 3 scrolls is a ton of money. I'm probably not going to get that from it. And then the house that really wants the fighter to come along and babysit might be like, well, I really want to make sure that this mission succeeds. Okay, yeah, I will actually do the 3 scrolls. And what we found was in the big playtest, because there were 5 playtests. The one that I talk about the most is playtest 5. It was 250 sessions long. What we found out was that those types of things happened a couple of times and then would peter out, where people would ask for a really high cost of something. And then after a little while, they'd be like, actually, this sort of barter system of give and take, it feels better to do it that way. And so they would end up being much more communist in their approach at the end of the day than kind of demanding certain things from people. And the second question that was asked was, how much do people feel overshadowed by the higher level characters when they take a low level character? That can happen sometimes. One of the default sort of rules is a suggestion that you should play with people of your own tier. So the tiers are 1 to 3, 4 to 6, 7 to 10, and then higher than 10. So, it's one of those things of like a suggestion, but it does sometimes happen. But what I will say is specifically with level 1 characters, there will be instances where you have like a level 3 or level 4 character that's coming along and has a bunch of low level characters. And one of the problems that I have with some other systems is that the level 1s don't feel like real characters. They're like henchmen, basically, at level 1. When a higher level character comes along, they feel kind of worthless. But in All Mice Die, one of the important things with the way that skill system works is you don't pick your skills on character creation. You pick your skills when you go to use the skill, which means if you decide to bring out a low level character, you bring out a level 1 character, that character has like Schrodinger's skills, which means they might be able to be the person who knows the arcane, who is able to know all the underground passages because they're a trained dungeoneer. They might be the person who is the diplomat because that ends up being where they want to spend their points. And it also means as a level 1 character, you're never building a character with certain skills and a certain mentality in mind. And then you play that character and you're like, oh, well, I built for diplomacy and history, and we never did any of those in our game. You can't have that, because the only time you would put points into diplomacy is when it is now time to make a diplomacy check. And what we found was like that one element meant that ironically, it was actually the level 2 characters that ended up being the ones that were like, well, I mean, okay, you can take them if that's the only thing you have, but do you have a fresh character that you could bring, just so, if we come across that situation where we really want this one particular skill, we can try to convince you, or you can try to see if that would be kind of how the character would end up playing out.
Yeah, it makes sense because they don't have that, level 2 characters don't have that flexibility, and they're not yet at the level of doing bigger stuff. Yeah, I see that. It's interesting way to solve the level 1 meat grinder kind of thing.
Yeah, and what was interesting is we ended up having 2 completely different styles of play that developed during the playtest for how you treat low-level characters. One of the groups, and these are very nebulous groups because there was a lot of interchange between the 2, but like one of the ideologies basically was that you played slow and steady, that you were very like hyper prepared, very thoughtful, very methodical in everything you did, which meant that most of the people in that group lost very few characters. I would say maybe an average between that group of players, over like 7 or 8 players that played like that, they probably lost between 1 and 2 mice a piece for the entire campaign.
That sounds like the OSR kind of way of playing it.
Yeah, to a certain degree it is. But that meant that they had this very slow but very steady progression. But ironically, it meant that they were very poorly equipped by the time that they got to higher levels. And the reason that is because the other group that was playing basically, we're going to shotgun characters through this system and then see who lives. And the ones that survive, okay, those are the main characters now. The people that did it that way, they took a lot longer to get a high level character. But the way that the system works, the way that all magic items work in the system, is magic items are created through drama. They're created through heroic deeds. Ooh. So if you do something that is narratively dramatic and probably reckless, likely to get you killed, you're much more likely to be able to create a magic item from that way. So the one group of players had low-level characters that ended up just slowly churning their way through. Each of those characters lost each of those players lost an average of maybe 4 to 5 mice, sometimes more. But they when they had their characters that survived, they were very well equipped, right? They had several magic items that they could pile on one character to then make a run for high levels. Whereas the high level character, the people in the other group, they had high level characters with little to no magic items. And then once they were at high level, then they could start pushing their luck, sort of relying on their skills and their level and all the stuff that they had learned to then push their luck and create, at that point, higher level magic items, and then kind of get quick. So they both got to the same place, but very different methodologies.
Oh, yeah. And same power level, but it also looks very different from one to the other.
Yeah. They the slow and steady group, they would try to go for, hey, we want to try to get like a level every 3 sessions or something like that. And then the group that was sort of shotgunning, running through everything is like, we just want to get some session somewhere where we can get like 3 levels in one session because we've hit the jackpot and like only one of us survived. And so all the money gets funneled into one character.
Okay, I see that Kim from Quest Train has joined us. Hi, Kim. And Dungeon Matron is also here. Stylishly late as always. Hello, all you amazing rodents. And yeah, we have Steve from Shadows of Arconia as well. Hi, Steve.
Hey, Steve.
So I understand that you will be running All Mice Die on Shadows of Arconia tomorrow, yeah?
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. We're going to be running the quick start there.
Okay. Want to bring it out now?
Sure, yeah. Do you want me to show or?
Show people.
So this is the quick start adventure. I'm trying to hold it up correctly. And we have, if you see the intro animation that's on the Kickstarter or on my any of my videos, you'll recognize this scene as the creature comes out of the shadows in the back. And the way that this adventure is designed to kind of really promote that idea of what it means that this is a West Marches game versus a standard like D&D game or something like Mouse Ritter or something that's really designed to be more of a standard. Hey, we've got 5 characters and these are the 5. These are each of the characters that I play. I've got one guy that does a thing, and the way that this comes out, we'll have a short explanation of the rules, writing it all out with little graphics and comics and stuff to sort of explain things. And then when you get through that, the meat of this book is helping you explain what the table of contents means. So if you can sort of see, I don't know how much I can make it shown there. The table of contents has this grid, which are all of the encounters. A lot of times a one-shot or like an intro adventure will give you sort of, hey, here's a beginning, middle, and end. Here's this sort of concrete story. But that isn't how the game All Mice Die actually plays out. It plays out as this world that you're going and exploring, and you have a main goal, but you could get distracted and find all these other things. It's designed to be this exploration-heavy game. So one last page I wanted to show is most of the book looks like this. That'll have your adventure areas on one side over here. that have like what all you can find in that area and sort of how it connects to the other points of interest. And then the other side of the page, it has all of our stat blocks of our creatures, so that you can really quickly run, because that book has 37 encounters in it.
Okay.
You should not prep 37 encounters. That's insanity. You should just have a vague idea of, oh, this is the format of how these things get done, so that when you have that encounter that shows up, you can see, oh, here's a paragraph that I need to know what's going on, and then here's the stat blocks in case we get into a fight.
Okay. And by the way, I also posted a link to your Kickstarter in the chat. When is that going out? Right now, it's just the notification, right?
Yeah, right now it's just the notification. We're really hoping to get that done by this month. By this month, I mean like by May, right? We want to try to release in May. It is my first Kickstarter that I've run, and so I want to be very, very mindful of trying to do things correctly. I'm not really trying to make a lot of money from this. I would like to be able to cover all of our costs if we could. But the goal here is to get this in the hands of people, because we're doing the quick start as the Kickstarter adventure, this adventure that has the rules and the characters and the pre-gens and everything included into it, so you can just start playing and run. And then one of the other things that I think is important is not only do you get all of the pieces to be able to run a game, you also get an invite to the Discord to be able to play when I run the main campaign. When I restart the campaign, you can play with the designers, you can play with the people and say, all right, I can run this on my own and see if I like it. But if I do like it, I can also then play with this online campaign, which in a normal 5-man band style D&D group, you can't invite 100 people to play in your campaign. That wouldn't work. We had over 200 players in Playtest 5. So, if 200 people magically show up and are part of the Kickstarter, which I do not expect is going to happen, but if it did happen, we would be able to run for everybody.
So do you plan to have some kind of living world campaign kind of thing?
Yeah, so it is going to be a West Marches style campaign. I sent you the picture for what the world map looks like, and that is sort of the area of the game. It's not going to be exactly. So this is something that was commissioned by one of the artists that we work with that did this awesome watercolor of the counties and the areas. And it is this point crawl, go and find interesting things. You go and you learn about 15 different rumors while you're trying to chase down one rumor. And then you kind of work with each other to say, all right, well, I care about this thing and you care about that thing. And we move along and we go through. And then as you explore the world, you're also exploring the system and the setting. So one of the big things that you would get as an advantage for playing a stable of characters is that you can unlock a class where if you're playing like D&D 5e and you're playing your fighter every week and you've got your story and you've got your stuff and you do some cool stuff and you unlock the idea that we can now make a bargain with this supernatural entity, right? We unlocked the warlock class for the campaign. It would probably feel really weird, or it might have to follow a very specific storyline for you to want to become a warlock, right? Because you've played as that fighter for maybe a year. I don't want to make my fighter a warlock, or if I do, maybe it's only like one person in the group wants to do that, or it's going to take like one level or something in warlock. But when you're playing a family of characters and you can say, oh, there is we've unlocked the ability for people to make these packs. We've unlocked the ability for warlock class. My fighter doesn't want to do it, but maybe his little brother wants to be an adventurer and wants to roll up as a warlock. And now the whole campaign has access to a new class. And there are 6 starter classes that are in the quick start and that are the assumed default whenever you run a campaign. And there are an additional 15 classes that are on top of that are already done and ready to be played.
Nice. So James is saying that's a nice little zine size teaser thing. I think that's about the start, yeah.
We have one of our plans is to have a monthly magazine once the campaign is rolling. We've already put quite a bit of work into the format of them, like the layout and design and kind of exactly where things go. Of, oh, you've unlocked the warlock class. here is the art for the Warlock class, and then here's kind of the intro abilities, here's the intro requirements for the Warlock class, and then here's a bunch of like NPCs that are connected with the Warlock idea. Here's the final kind of quest to fully unlock it so that anyone can take it at a character creation instead of the sort of we know the path to get there version. And really make it feel like it is something that the group is uncovering and building into the world before winter comes and everything ends again. Because that cycle of discovery and figuring stuff out happens when magic exists, which is most of the year, but it's not all of the year. And then when magic dies and society crumbles, then everything doesn't restart from scratch, but you have to rebuild.
Mm-hmm. So they're kind of like campaign seasons kind of thing. It's like, or campaign years, that kind of thing.
Yeah. And one of the things that we're pretty passionate about is the idea that the game is malleable to what you think as a dungeon master is interesting. And being able to, when you use the World Architect booklet, which is the little world building mini game that comes with the main campaign, it's not in the quick start guide. It's going to be next year when we launch the full campaign or the full game, is it asks you a bunch of questions. What do you want to care about as a DM? What does magic look like this year? Because in spring of every year, well, not of every year, but of spring of every year that the game is going to be played, magic is reborn, and it's reborn transformed, which means magic this year does not work like it did last year. So how has it changed? How is it different? What are you going to relearn about things? And it's something that the players who played in multiple versions of the playtest really had a lot of fun with. One of the people who played, every time we would have this thing where we're like, oh yeah, we've got an enchanted gold weapon so we can kill the shapeshifter. He'd be like, well, wait, no, you're right. No, you're correct. The supernatural ability of gold this year is that it is an anti-shapeshifter weapon, because when he had played in the previous campaign, that was the supernatural ability of silver. But this year's magic says silver is anti-undead. And so all of these little pieces change so that even if you've played the system for quite a while, you're always exploring and learning new things, because how things fit together differently kind of come in these infinite variations. And you can sort of build it forward into the game.
Yeah, that's absolutely a way to keep magic fresh. I do have some more questions about the world, but how do the players discover these things? Is it like, because I don't imagine that every year they handed out the almanac for the year and says, okay, this year gold does this, silver does this, and so how do they get that information?
So there's two things. First of all, there is the GM's rubric, which basically is just a grid that says material X used in way Y gets this effect. And so it is a hidden rubric that they have to just experiment. They have to learn. They have to go out and find things. During last season, during the playtest, one of the things that was really interesting that happened was at the end of an adventure, the players came home and they said, all right, we're spending downtime. And the entire group of adventurers went out, they did a thing, they came back home, and everyone within about an hour of each other posted in the crafting channel that they were crafting a silver axe and a silver sword and a silver shield and a silver helmet. And everyone else in the campaign went, question, what? What did you learn? Oh, you all learned that silver is somehow anti-undead, that silver weapons will penetrate through undead resistance. Well, what does the silver helm do? And they go, well, we don't know, but we know it's probably something to do with undead. So we're going to go back into the tombs with a silver helmet on, and then we'll figure it out. We'll go and learn. And then when they go and they find out, oh, someone would get possessed by a wraith. And then I have on my little rubric that if the wraith tries to take over someone who's wearing a silver helm, it hurts them and they get kicked out, right? It protects them. And as soon as that learns, they're like, oh, all right, now we've got this thing. And they can build these tools to work together. So that's one piece. That's the sort of supernatural materials and magic items version. The other thing is magic. Mm-hmm. So there is a little bit of an almanac that gets handed out at the beginning of the year for magic. And it's because the the function of magic is easy to figure out, but what it does is the hard part. So every spell in the game is 3 words put together. So for example, create water is create water corporeal. I'm making water real. And it summons a big thing of water. You can flip any of these words into something else. So you could flip create to destroy. You could flip water to fire. You could flip corporeal to incorporeal and have a different spell effect. But when you change those words, each of the words in that little almanac will tell you what the default value of that word is. And the more of the value of the word, the harder it is to cast that spell.
Right.
So people will learn really quickly, oh, we know that create is worth 0 points. It's very easy to cast create, but destroy costs 1 point. So it's going to bump the spell up by a level. And so they'll know those things, but they won't know what combining the words does this year. They won't know what is in those spaces. And whenever you cast a spell, you have to burn a scroll. There's no cantrips. There's no spells per day or spell slots. They're all burning scrolls, sort of like magic items. So you're like, all right, well, I don't know what, destroy fire corporeal does. I have some ideas of what this might do, right? Like I get to unmake fire. So that same thing, the DM has a rubric that says what's in that quadrant. They know what sort of effects are in there. And so the player will take the scroll and like, okay, I have an idea. Bam, I'll push this through. And then they will make a check to see how much they can sort of intuit the flow of things. And then they'll get to learn, all right, I got this part of that spell right. I got that part of the spell wrong. And then if they get a pretty good chunk of the spell right, the GM will say, all right, well, you now know what's there. Here is the spell that you have learned that is in this position on the grid.
Nice. So if I understand correctly, the magic is based on scrolls. So for example, you would have this blank scroll with you, you will scroll the words in it and off it goes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Now the other idea is that process is dangerous and it takes a long time. So you can't do a scroll in the middle of a fight. Okay. You would need to do it in downtime. You'd need to do it between adventures.
So for example, in your case, if you wanted to, you'd have to prepare like destroy water corporeal, for example, whatever, and you would have it with you. Okay.
Yeah, and the spell, anyone can cast a spell. Anyone can try. Now, whether you're going to succeed at it or not is an entirely different issue. But almost any mouse can try to cast a spell. And then the spell casting classes, they're really good at casting spells well, being able to cast more than one spell a day, getting extra effects of the spells, and also being able to twist and mutate that spell into many things. So if you've got, like you said, a destroy water corporeal spell, you've got a destroy water spell, your fighter probably is never going to cast that as anything but destroy water if they do end up casting it. But the wizard might go, no, I don't need to destroy water right now. I need to create water now. So I'll flip the destroy to create. Yeah, it'll be harder to cast, but I got this. So they
can do that on the fly, you mean?
Yes, they can do that on the fly. So they have like a base spell, which is not very difficult to cast. And then they can, on the fly, change them. And the spell casting classes are really good at giving extra options so that, for your fighter, that scroll is basically one spell. For your wizard, it's minimum 4 spells. And if it's a high level wizard that can change multiple keywords on the fly, well, now they have, a whole panoply of spells that they can cast a whole bunch of combinations.
Nice. Okay. What was I thinking? Oh, yeah. And the other thing, one thing I like about this the system is that it kind of lights a fire under the players, because if they have to get something done, they know how magic works this year. And, they can't just we'll do it tomorrow or whenever, because once the year changes, then they have no idea what they have.
Yeah. And one of the things that, is talked a little bit about in the GM section that isn't explicitly mentioned in the player section is what happens when magic dies. Because that is once players realize this, and that idea of letting a fire under your ass becomes really important. Because the fact that you are mice that have a language, that are casting spells, that are doing all these things, that are building stuff, all of that is because of magic. So when magic dies,
Oh,
you're
shit.
normal field mice for 3 months. Good luck.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that is the sort of existential horror component, which interestingly, one of the things that ended up happening in playtest 3, I cannot take credit for this because I did not do this intentionally. But one of the things that I find is really fun, there are certain game systems that have a really good answer to some sort of meta questions of why do adventures exist in this world, or why do magic items exist in this world, or those sort of things. One thing that came up was that the players in campaign 3, which was like a very accelerated timeline version of play, is they were like, well, we want to set our house up for success next year. So when it gets into the fall, we're going to be all basically focusing and gathering all of our resources together to get into next year. So the natural tendency of that play group was, we're going to gather a bunch of varied resources. We're going to store them all together in one place. We're going to get like food and water and have like rooms to stay in. But then also, because we're normal mice, we also want to we want to have things that can sort of like keep our stupid selves inside of an area so that we don't wander off and get eaten because we have all the food and stuff prepared. But then also, if we have a bunch of mice that are all contained in this little box that I can't get out, well, we need to then have like traps and things as external things to stop predators. And basically what they did is they made dungeons. It ended up being the most logical way to make it to next year with most of your stuff intact, was to make dungeons. And that ended up being something in the world of like, oh, actually, that makes sense. If you have this stockpile of resources, but you're going to be sort of going to animalistic levels of intelligence, you need to find a way that, oh, if I have basic problem solving skills, I can easily open this door and get out. But if I don't have basic problem solving skills, if I can't read what it says on the wall that says, press 1, then 3, then 4, then 5 to get out, I can't get out. But any toddler in the society could do it otherwise, right? Then you have these dungeons that internal logic of why there are these puzzles, why there are these caches of like food and materials and loot and all that sort of stuff suddenly automatically exists, because that's how every society tries to get through the winter.
Because Bertrand is saying it's a fun idea to plan for your stupid self, and yeah, I agree.
Yeah, we I don't remember, someone in the community, in the sort of creator community, did a thing on how incredible, I think it was a Grungeon Master, how incredibly stupid the Skyrim dungeons are.
I was just thinking about that because of the claw puzzles. Yeah.
So it's like, why would you ever put the answer key on the key to open the door? Well, if you're planning for, if I can read the answer key, I should be able to open the door and get out, because that means magic exists. That means we have intelligence. That means we can take care of ourselves. That then makes an explanation of why we have these rooms that have puzzles built into the room that is designed to be solved, because you're supposed to be able to access them if you're intelligent enough.
And Jimmy is saying my stupid self plans too much already. But
yeah,
it makes sort of sense having puzzles as a cognitive test rather than if you can guess this, you can get to mix.
And you'll still have sort of like really nasty traps and stuff, because and traps that are sort of automated, right? Because you'll want to make sure that if you put a bunch of food for predators, right, you stick 30 mice into a box, you want to make sure that all the ways that a snake could get in there into the buffet are all deadly traps to stop the predators from getting in.
And they have to be automatic, because you don't have the mental capacity to reset them when they trigger. Yeah.
Exactly. And there's no magic, so you can't create like a ward or something like that, because magic doesn't exist anymore. They have to be mechanical.
I mean, to be honest, this is genius. The basic idea is such a simple concept. It's like magic here, magic not here. But all the implications are just. I love this.
Yeah, and it's a lot of fun when people go into it, because one of the other things that happened in campaign 3, which I had a lot of fun with, right? Part of the joy of playtesting is things come up that, like, as soon as that happened, I was like, that makes 100% sense. I'm going to build a ton of rules for dungeon creation, for, hey, this was basically a bunker for another society, another family. Maybe they were mice, maybe they were rats, maybe they were frogs, all kinds of different peoples that exist. So that gives us these really good dungeon templates that are easy for someone to make, because, we kind of have all the pieces that are there. The kind of idea of the archetypical, I'm going to make a dungeon out of a castle. And so you take, what did a medieval castle have to have in it? And then you build from there. The same sort of concept, but it's a little bit more tied to the world. And one of the other things that happened, because we were thinking about it, is one of the players, and I'll pose this to you. What do you think the problem with this situation is? One of the players is like, I'm going to make my bunker a fortress. I'm going to take my entire family and I'm going to put everybody in the bunker. I'm going to build high walls. I'm going to make it all done, and we're going to get through the winter. What is the problem with that situation?
With a bunker kind of thing?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a bunker as opposed to a dungeon, I mean, like, it's kind of smaller and fewer layers of defense, I would guess. And you could get out a lot more easily, I would suppose.
So those are all excellent things, and that is exactly what they were thinking about. Except for then what happened is, we fast forward into several months later. It is now spring, and people's minds are turning back on. Their sapience is reawakening. Mm-hmm. And they look around, and there's a bunch of pinkies. There's a bunch of young mice that are less than 3 months old. Oh, crap. So you don't want that. So you don't want to build your bunker isolated. You want to work with other families, because when you bunker in, when you close yourself in for the end of the year, you don't want to lock yourself in a room with you and all of your sisters. That's going to lead to some therapy later. What you actually want to do is mix and match, so that, all the women from this family are in this bunker that are with the men from this other family. Or if you can, have like 6 families that are sort of intermingling, right? The idea that you're not going to have that moment of like, oh yeah, when I'm a normal mouse, I would not have a problem with that. But now that I have sapience, now I have a problem with that.
Okay, I did not see that coming. I seriously did not see that coming.
Neither did the player. And it was one of those things that I wouldn't have thought about until we play tested it. And then I started like, okay, what's going to happen towards the new year, and how does this work, and how are we going to get new mice and all this sort of stuff. And then I thought about that, and I was like, not only, does that make sense? That is 100% what would happen. And, maybe certain societies could be okay with that sort of thing. But if we assume the society is like ours that would not be okay with that sort of thing, what does that do to the sort of ethos of the game? Well, what that does is it says you really want to work with other players. You want to work with other families because you want to avoid this situation. And you want your family to do the best. But if you make it to where your family is the only one that did well and everybody else did poorly, well, then their bunkers, their dungeons are going to be bad. And you won't want to send your brothers and sisters and cousins and stuff to go stay there for the winter. So there is this sort of community-driven element for the world that comes out of that very awkward situation.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, I mean, like I said, the premise of just magic go away, brain shutdown is like there are a lot more implications than I thought of originally.
And some of them are stuff that we definitely came into early on, and some of them, a lot of them came up during playtest of, one of the players was like, hey, I've spent in campaign 3, I spent a ton of time, energy, and effort in making all these scrolls for the year, but they're not going to function very well. They're not going to function as I wanted them to next year because magic's going to be different. Well, that means we're going to have effectively a party at the end of the year where it's just like smoke them if you got them, right? Like we're going to try to do all of the crazy things that we can do at the end of the year to kind of have this end of the year party. And if you have things where, you know, if you got a bunker that's being built and the snakes, which are intelligent as well, if the snake is like, I want to have an easy food source for the winter that my dumb self can get to, I don't want to break down the door to the dungeon in May because then they're going to fix it. I want to break down the door to the dungeon, you know, in November so they don't have time to fix it before winter comes. And so you have this impetus, yes, to get a bunch of stuff done throughout the year, but right at the end, you have this dramatic sort of push to where you want to do all of your big important stuff all together because you know your tools and your resources are all going to change. Everything is going to be different next year, you know, which also changes a bunch of economics, like changes a lot of social things for the world when the magic changes.
Yeah. So, okay. So first things first, I just dropped the link for your game tomorrow on Shadows Arconia. Steve just sent me the link. It's in the chat. I will put it in a pinned comment after the stream. So let's see. Steve is saying, not able to watch and pay attention now, but I'll catch this on replay after my class today. That's okay, Steve. We'll try not to drop too many spoilers for tomorrow. Campaign 10 is saying, create fire corporeal, makes for great fireworks. And yeah, I think you also basically accidentally invented Mouse Christmas. Or
yes, Mouse
Year.
Yeah, the create fire chaos is even better. There's only 18 words. So it is a very expansive system. There's a ridiculous number of combinations, but it's not like any words can go together. There's 18 words that can be used for magic.
Okay. I like chaos. It's a good ingredient. And campaign terrain is, questboard terrain is saying, the intelligence loss thing reminds me of Sister Sage from The Boys. But I think it's it goes to just even dumber animal level, I would guess.
I don't know. I don't know Sister Sage from The Boys, so I've now been given homework. I'm excited for it. I don't know what that is going to look like.
Oh, it's a thing.
Okay.
It is The Boys. I mean, like that show goes all the way to 11. So
yeah.
Okay,
and there are things in this that do kind of go to 11, but most of it is just the world from the perspective of we have a cycle where magic lives. We have all these cool things that we do. We have a culture and a society and everything like that. We can build great works and do great things. And then we have downtime. We have this thing where society and magic and culture collapses for a period. And then we have to see what survives to the other side. And then combined with the perspective change for mice, when we ran campaign, every time I've run the campaign, when they start in this area and we have that world map where the top and the bottom of the map are the northern and southern wastelands. Mm-hmm. And occasionally someone will have an adventure and so like one of the areas up there is called the Waste Watch. You can sort of see the very edge of the map. There's the little hatches for the northern wastes just to the right there.
Oh, yeah,
and they'll be like, oh, well, we'll see what's up there. And they'll go and there's this massive expanse of like perfectly flat, unnatural land. And they're like, okay, well, what do we know about this thing? What can we do with it? Can we cross it? Yeah, you can cross the wasteland if you want to. It's really not that far. You can definitely get across it, but you're not going to have any shelter. That's going to be very dangerous for a mouse. And then the other problem is that sometimes when you walk into the wastes, there'll be a blur of sound and color and you explode and nobody knows why. Like the mouse just pops. And they're like, oh, so this is some sort of like eldritch horror thing. So what is that? So what is you as a human looking at that, saying that thing is?
Just sounded being driven over by a car, I guess. Because
yeah,
shit, the gray waste. It's
a road. Mice can only see about 10 feet accurately. They can see motion up to about 40 feet. So if you can only see about 10 feet accurately, and there's an area of the world that if you go next to, there is a size of a truck, right? A mountain comes along at 70 miles an hour and destroys you and doesn't even notice you're there. That doesn't feel like a road to them. That feels like this sort of like Cthulhu land, right?
Like, I mean, again, like playing with perspective that way is such a great idea.
It's so much fun.
Dungeon Matron had an alternative theory for that, and it's caffeine.
Caffeine, yeah. So yeah, one of the people that made made an adventure to run, made an adventure off of somebody's coffee.
Mug.
Stein is the wrong word, but like the metal
travel mug, I guess.
Yeah, the travel mug. Yeah, so somebody's travel mug full of coffee fell out their window and landed in an area that the mice could get to, and the idea that it was caffeinated was like part of the style of the adventure that he wrote. And I thought it was really cool.
That was hilarious. I loved it. Okay, so what I'm getting from this is like the mice aren't inhabiting their own world. It's like the real world with magical mice and animals and stuff. Okay.
Yeah, and one of the things that'll be fun is when we release the full game. This spot, it's not a made up spot, really. This is a physical place that exists. It's about 5 miles from my house.
Oh.
So on one of the videos that I'm planning on coming out is a walk through the area, walk through the counties, because the entire game takes place in the median of an interstate. There's a section of the interstate where the north and southbound lanes, they split apart from each other because there's a ravine. There's something that they can't be next to each other, and you can't see the northbound lane from the southbound lane from the side. There's about 3/4 of a mile gap between the two locations, and that thing lasts for like 6 miles. That is a huge amount of space when your character is 5 inches tall, right?
Yeah.
If you're measuring in miles and your height is in inches, it is this incredibly big area. And you can see on there where the block is, that is a dump truck from when the road was first built. It fell into the ravine, and then it was just too much effort to get it out of there. So it's just in the ravine. There is an old dump truck from the 50s down there.
Yeah, I was just going to ask about that. What's this bird thing over here?
So the bird is the symbol of the block. So the block is the engine block of the old truck, and the Warrens, which is just above it, that is the
I get you. The symbol for
the bed.
The Warrens. Okay, I get that.
Yeah.
Oh, this is so cool.
And the map on here, if you see that little sparkly line that goes around, that's the sticks. And that area that's shown on the map is not nearly that big. It is very small. It is basically the area of the truck and right around it. But on the all the stuff that they get for the players, nothing is intended to be drawn to scale, right? So the mouse make their section very big and very detailed, where if you look to the left and you have the Prairie Dog Ghost Town, which is where we'll be going in the Quickstarter, okay. That's like one little location. But that thing is way bigger than the counties. But all of the things in the game are very much in the idea of these are narrative spaces. It's a point crawl, not a hex crawl, because that's how the mice think about it. That's how it works in world.
Yeah, I mean, like, you just blew my mind saying that this is like a real place that you've reworked into this, and there's so much fun.
Yeah, the rules will have a link that you can follow to go to a Google map to physically put yourself in the space. So if you're like, I don't really know what this would look like, you can 100% make it up on your own. Like, do your own stuff, have at it. But if you want to know what this spot looks like, you can drag the little guy from Google Maps, stick him next to the road, and then turn the camera to look down into the ravine and see what the physical location looks like. And there's so many little things that we've been able to play around with because these are physical locations. Because if I have an idea of what something is there on that map, there's a couple windows that have like the campaign threats, and one of them is Bloodroot. Well, the reason that Bloodroot is where he is on the map, So he's sort of West River on the left-hand side of the map. That's our turtle, Bloodroot. There is an actual snapping turtle that is near this intersection that when I went to walk through the counties, I saw him there 2 or 3 times. I didn't see him my last time I went through the counties, but I saw him there, and he's huge. Like, he's probably somewhere between the range of like 60 to 80 pounds. Is a gigantic snapping turtle that just is sitting in the water. And as sort of your like smog-like dragon, right?
Yeah,
that is something that is so much bigger than the mice. It's so much sort of outscaling of them that to them it is like this. It's like smog, right? It's like one of the great worms.
I mean, to be again, I mean, like it sounds like a brilliant idea because hey, you need an idea for a game. Just go for a walk, have a look around. Oh, someone abandoned the car in there. Okay, that's going to be a new adventure.
Exactly. Yeah. One of the other adventures that someone came up with was, again, 2 people had the same idea of like humans lose a thing and then the mice get it and it's something interesting. Is somebody had like an Apple Watch. And he wrote all these cool descriptions for like the different modes of the watch and how the mice would perceive it. And the whole adventure was about this Apple Watch and an air elemental that wanted to play with the watch. And it was fun to just be like, oh, I have this basic idea. And the other thing you can do, which is wild, is you can do like a Wikipedia thing for small creatures, because the most fun for me is explaining something, of giving them the perspective that the mice would have, and then the slow realization of, oh, they actually know what this is. Or they assume whatever I'm describing is some sort of like crazy magical effect. And then they learn later, it's not some crazy magical effect. That's how that thing actually works. But we don't think about it because we're so much bigger.
The black scrying mirror of Obsidian. Yeah.
Well, even more like animals, right? Like they fought a shrew, and the shrew had a venomed bite, and they got envenomed. They had to deal with it. And they were like, oh man, this is a cool thing, that like the magical ability of shrews in this thing. And then someone looked it up and was like, oh no, shrews are venomous. Hang on. That's not a magic made up thing. Or we had some players that were in the EU that the first time that they encountered this character Kisscat, who is a blue-tailed skink, and they got a description and they got some colors and they got a little drawing of what she looks like, they were like, oh, you know, that's a thing. This is a magical thing. And then they looked up and they're, oh, wait, no, it is actually that color. It is this neon blue that looks completely artificial. It doesn't look like a real color that goes on a normal lizard. Okay. But no, that is how they function. And, you know, that is a real thing. And, you know, learning about like the last little one was, I don't know if you know what a loggerhead shrike is. So at the end of the stream, if you want to have a little interesting moment and you're like, hey, how would things of a smaller perspective see this thing? Check out what a loggerhead shrike is. It is a very innocuous looking little bird. They're, you know, yay big. The northern loggerhead shrike standing up is not big. Their other name is the butcher bird, because one of the things that they do is they hang out around thorn bushes and barbed wire, and then they go and they pick up little creatures and they impale them alive on spikes, and they make like a display of little creatures and cure them on spikes and things. And they're very, very fast. And yeah, it's like, for us, they're these like innocuous looking little like white and black birds. They're kind of cute looking. They make a fun sound.
They do.
But then for a mouse, like that is a horrific serial killer that takes joy in not just killing you, but impaling you and then leaving you up, which one is terrifying, and 2 is great for adventures, right? Because if one of your characters gets picked up and killed, well, then the adventure's over. Vengeance. But if one of the characters gets picked up and is taken just outside of your visual range, right? They're taken 20 feet away and then impaled onto a spike, and so you can hear them up somewhere in the thorn bush. Well, the adventure's not over now.
So Dungeon Maiden is saying the mice find the CBD edible party time.
Yeah, on that line, There is an edible for humans, an edible mushroom that grows in Kentucky. I'm in Kentucky. There's an edible mushroom that grows in Kentucky that has no ill effect on humans. However, it has a very psychedelic effect, like a hallucinatory effect, on a certain subspecies of things, basically any of the musculoids and I think canines. So I think it's like dogs and weasels and things like that. And so one of the characters that was a big person in Campaign 5 that the group actually attached themselves pretty heavily to, they really liked this character and did a lot of stuff with him, was a skunk named Sekvin, who they would trade these mushrooms to so that he could just be stoned and blasted out of his mind, and would give him help and information and stuff like that. Because for the mice, these mushrooms are their anatomy is, or at least the way that they digest things is closer to the way a human does than the way that the skunk does. So it's not psychedelic. It's food, but it's not a big deal for them. But for Sekvin, it's like, oh man, this is the real shit.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I could see how players would jump on that. I mean, like that sounds like a hilarious thing to do.
Yeah, it's especially fun because, again, the same perspective, right? A skunk is known for their stench for humans, right? People associated them with the foul smell. Not that they don't have that smell, but we don't think about a skunk as an apex predator. But from the perspective of a mouse, that thing is so much bigger, and it could eat an entire family and keep going. And they will eat mice. And so it is this thing, and like they're sort of like heavy fur and loose skin makes it very difficult for anything that's like a smaller thing to really hurt them. So they again, the change in perspective goes, oh, these skunks are annoyances, and my skunk sprayed my dog, and then it was stinky for 2 months, and I had to bathe them in tomato juice or whatever. It's an irritant for humans, but it's like a dragon. Again, it's another creature that is this incredibly powerful thing, and in the game world, the sort of elements to explain like what creatures are spellcaster and what creatures aren't. When we built the rules for them, we realized that not only are the skunks physically powerful, they're also really potent spellcasters. So, you have this draconic sized entity that is also a wizard. And it's like, okay, well, we're glad we have one of them that's a friend, and the rest of them are not fun.
Because Bertrand is saying, I think this is about the loggerhead strike from earlier. Like entomologists meaning specimens. Yeah, I mean, like, except you're the specimen and it's got really strong serial killer vibes.
Well, and the shrikes do it as a mating display, right? So you have that other element, right, where the shrike is like, oh, I need to do this to impress someone. Built into their thing, which doesn't make it any better. That might make it worse. That you're trying to impress somebody else.
Say it with war crimes doesn't really, I don't think it's going to make for a very good Valentine's Day.
Yeah, and everything would be a little different. Skunk as a dragon, or a sphinx maybe. I'm sorry, I saw the question. Got ahead of you. Sorry.
No, it's. So, but yes, skunk as a dragon is pretty much what you settled on.
Yeah, and there are all these different creatures that end up being like, okay, well, how do I take the idea of this creature and add magic, add sapience, not just sentience, right? Like add like a culture to them, and how do they evolve, and how do they change, and what do they act like? And every game master might have a different perspective, or they might have a different animal that they think is really interesting to be able to add onto it. But we have the game master rules, or the world architect rules, sort of explain where the bands are for sapience. So like if you're below this level, you're too small to have sapience. And if you're above this level, you're too big to have sapience. There's sort of a band in the middle. So like a deer is going to be too big to have sapience from the way that the game works. But like an ant is too small. And then if you get kind of the edges of the bands, you then have these creatures that are partially sapient or partially sentient. You kind of have the idea of like dogs, where dogs can be quite smart, but they're not going to be like talking and writing books and things like that. So you have these interesting little bands, and sometimes I get to learn cool new things. I learned recently that when I was doing one of the Waka counties, I was taking pictures of things. I thought that crayfish were a lot smaller. I thought they were, yay big, because I've seen little bitty crayfish in like tanks, and I'd seen them when I was a kid, when I was younger. But when I went to the counties, I found like several crayfish that were like this long. And I was like, oh, hang on, how big can these get? And then I started doing some research, and I realized, oh, these things can be about the same size, and then sometimes bigger than mice. Okay. So in campaign 5, the crayfish were too small to have sentience, and they were sort of like a farmable creature almost by some of the other entities. But that's not correct to how the world works. I then got to learn, oh no, these guys are big enough. They would have society. They would have a culture. They would have all these things. And then I got to learn about, there is a specific species, the upland burrowing crayfish, which not only can be pretty big, but they're bright blue and red. So, and they can dig tunnels, and they dig these like burrows that'll have they always have an odd number of exits, at least 3, to go into and out of, which is just fun as a dungeon building thing. Yeah. But they can go 9 feet underground, which is incredibly deep if you're 5 inches tall. Yeah. Like, that's a mine. And they can be in water and out of water and all this other sort of stuff. That I was like, oh man, now I have these like aquatic dwarf crustaceans to build from. Like, yeah, this is going to be cool.
Yeah, it sounds awesome. And the Dungeon Mitten just mentioned, I'm imagining a star-nosed mole as a guru type, speaking vague statements.
Yeah, they had a raccoon that was their unlock for the Artificer class, because the raccoon was very intelligent and had built himself all of these little trinkets and toys, and would teach them if they impressed him.
Yeah. Sapient dogs would still stop mid-sentence if a squirrel runs by.
True.
So, and you're also assigning them, I don't know, like cultures or something, because like now you mentioned crayfish dwarves or something like that. So it's like the snakes have their culture and the raccoons have their culture.
Yeah. And some of it comes just from what I think is interesting. Some of it comes from, hey, I'm trying to kind of pull in this idea I like from D&D or from somewhere else. And sometimes it just comes from like researching things. Like the way that snakes function, they are very anti-magic creatures. And so their culture is going to be built around that idea of distrust of magic, of using magic only for the ability to counter magic, because that prey species, the mice, often are using magic to defend themselves. And so it's sort of that sort of race to be above different things. But then you also have things of one of the only creatures, like if you encounter a snake in All Mice Die, there are going to be some instances where they might be okay with them. They might find a way to talk to them. They might try to make a bargain or deal or whatever. That is not the truth for everything. And one of the races that sort of stands above the rest when it comes to people that don't want to deal with them are weasels. So on the map, there's a thing that says the barony of the weasel lords. And then we were sort of thinking,
I did pick up the picture for that from your Kickstarter page.
Yeah, that is Baron Bartleby, the Lord of the Weasels. And he has, if you look on the side of his face, he's missing. He has that like cut out of his lip, and it goes out of his ear. So that was caused by one of the characters in game. That was caused by the Weasel Cleaver, by the axe, the Weasel Cleaver, and by the character who Lord Godfrey, who cut his face. Didn't kill him. He was able to escape. But now when the Baron thinks about mice, whenever he talks, he thinks about this wound that cannot heal. It was delivered with this magical weasel killing axe. So he can't heal it ever. So every time he talks, it hurts him, and his sort of hatred for mice builds. And this is why he's wearing a mouse cloak, as you can see as well. Because you don't actually have to wear clothing as a weasel. The armor is to protect you, and the cloak is just a flex.
Yeah. By the way, the artwork is absolutely amazing, and we'll get back to it later.
Yeah, I mean, Jesse Cabrera, who is the artist who's doing a lot of our more detailed stuff, he's just such a phenomenal artist. He's so easy to work with. And he comes up with all of these great ideas of like, all right, here's what I'm thinking. And then now that we're several pieces into some of the stuff that I've commissioned from him, he's able to take some of the concept stuff and really build. So this wasn't done by Jesse. This was done by a different artist. But Jesse has done a bunch of really just amazing pieces. And now that he's done several of them, now he sort of gets the mentality, he gets the vibe of the game. And so I'll be like, this is what I'm thinking about doing. And he'll be like, oh, have you considered this possible change? And I'm like, no, I haven't, but you're hitting the nail on the head. That's really cool.
Okay, so we do have this picture, which is an older design for the fighter, right?
Yeah, so that is the original concept art for the iconic fighter Giles, and that was done by Stephanie, who is our concept artist.
Mm-hmm. And then we've got these, which are the next evolution of the design. Yeah.
Yeah, so these are the sketches. So he will send me some different stances and different things, and then each of the character classes. So when I say that this is Giles, the player Corey was the first person in the playtest to make it to level 10, to make it to the final tier of play as a fighter, which meant that when I went to go commission the artwork for the fighter, it isn't a generic fighter that the artwork is for. It is Giles. It's specifically his. So what will happen is I will get the artwork back and I'll get the art direction back, and then I'll give it to Corey and say, hey, Corey, what do you think? What do you like? What do you want to do with it? And for me, if I was doing it in a vacuum, I would pick number one. The one on the left, it just feels like something that has this aura that comes off the page of like menace. I really, really like number one, but this is part of the thing of sort of trusting your icons and being able to put the players into the game. Corey said he always sees Giles as the underdog. He always sees Giles as looking up at the next big threat. Like he's that guy that's going to have the axe. It's going to be like, all right, I got to climb to get up to you to chop you in the face, but I got axes to climb up you to chop you in the face. Like I'm going to do it. But that idea that he sees himself as always looking up to the challenge meant that we ended up going with the second pose there. Just because he felt that embodied the character more. And it's so fun to be able to put that sort of stuff into the game.
And I mean, all three designs have tons of vibe. I mean, like they've got character. Yeah,
like it definitely does. And I think you also have a picture of the miniature for Giles that we're having done. So we have so there's the mini. And we are going to be doing, when we do the full game, we're going to be doing minis there. I found someone to work with when I was at Gamma that is able to take the artwork that we do, convert it into a mini, so that we can sort of have really good representations and have a lot of the specific things that I want. One of which was really funny when they were asking me about sizes, and I was like, there's a specific size of base that I think is very slightly smaller than the normal base size. I don't remember off the top of my head. I think it's like 55 millimeters as compared to like 1 inch or something like that. I don't remember, but it's like very slightly smaller than your average base. And the reason I want that to be the size is because your standard egg carton in the States, if you have a base that is the size that this one is, you can slot it into where the egg goes and it fits snugly in there, so you can carry all of your mice around in an egg carton, because then that makes it really approachable for you to be able to carry your minis and not have them destroyed, because it's not it's not that hard to come across an empty egg carton.
Again, that is another really good idea. I see Dient has joined us. Hi, Dient. Yeah,
hello.
I mean, it's fantastic that you thought of that while designing these, because it's like, I don't think most people even think about, we're going to do this with the miniatures and this and this and this, but they don't think about how am I going to carry them around.
And that's the thing, is because we've done all of these steps basically as soon as we think of them, rather than kind of wait. So we sort of like prototype really quickly and then try to work with it. I get to the position where I'm like, man, I really want to carry these around, but it's really difficult to easily carry these detailed characters around. I wish there was a way I could do it. And one of the base model sizes that we had, because we got a sample pack of a bunch of different ones, one of them we just had an egg crate, and I was like, oh, this fits super snugly into this spot, whereas the other ones were slightly too big, and you'd have to like force it down and like deform the bottom of the egg carton. But like, this fits snugly in the bottom. Oh man, this is so easy to carry them around and have them not get destroyed. And we're like, okay, well, that's going to be the base size we use, because if I'm taking it, if I'm running at my house, it's fine if I can't move them around. But I would run it at like local game shops and at a local brewery. And it was a pain in the butt to move around the ones that didn't have the base that would fit snugly into the egg carton.
Yeah, I can imagine, especially since you're demoing and showcasing the game, you really need to be able to move them.
Right. Yeah, I need to be able to put things out. And also, again, another thing, right, is because you have a stable of characters, what you're likely to have is you're unlikely to have people that pay to have a miniature done for each of their characters, right? Some of the people that played, when they played, they might have 12 mice. That would be crazy expensive and crazy difficult to have 12 miniatures for one per player. So what you end up having is you have like a collection of miniatures that all work, that are all mice, that all have some different things, little changes to them. And being able to then have something that's like a 12 or an 18 milk carton that you can pass around the table and be like, oh, I'm going to play this one today. And be able to take it out of the box as you're taking your character out of the stable. It plays into that idea. And the sort of physicality of that is something that I think is important for rules. And we even say in the rules, when you empower another player, which is sort of our help action equivalent, and you give them the ability to roll extra dice, the suggested rule is that you take one of your dice and hand them the D20 so that they can see, I rolled a 2 and a 16, but the one that I got from you was the 16. They can see the impact of working together. Or if they want to use their own dice, just have the player say, hey, the purple one is the one that you're rolling because of me. If you don't want to, share dice. And we found that when we started doing that at table, people started helping each other more often. People started empowering. People started doing aid more often, just because they got to see the ramification of, oh, I empowered the barbarian. Now the barbarian rolled, and they rolled a hit, but the other one's a crit. That's me. That's my crit.
Yeah, it's another thing like what we were talking about in the beginning, where it's like mechanically it's identical, but it feels better.
Yeah, I think we were talking about that before we started the stream, right? Where maybe not. Maybe we talked about it afterwards. But the idea of as many of the dice are player facing as possible.
No, I believe we had already started the stream at that point.
Yeah, it was at the start. You're right.
Okay, if we didn't, people in the chat, let us know, and we'll get back to it, because that was a really good point.
Yeah, and it's important for the way that the game works. Is I want it to be something that's very obvious, but we also don't want to ignore the digital tools, right? Like I said, the game is going to have an app, and part of the reason is because even the people that are very tools like digital averse, that are like, man, I don't want digital character sheets, or I don't want dice rolling apps, or I don't want this, or I don't want that. Even those people tend to be okay with, but yeah, we use a Facebook group or we use a Discord group to organize when the next session is going to be, right? Like those sorts of things. Yeah, this is the cover of the Quick Start, which this is another of Jesse's artworks that is just so great.
Like, this is serious art. This looks fantastic.
Yeah, and that character that is the iconic wizard. That's Harland.
Okay.
About to have a bad day.
Yeah, the end is saying about the dice and stuff. It's like asking someone to blow on your dice, but tactically. Yeah.
Yes. And one of the other side of that, right, is at the beginning of play, combat is fair combat is a failure state. Sometimes you'll get into combat, but like at low levels, it's very, very dangerous. At high levels, then you have all these combat abilities, you have all these cool tools to use that you really want to go and become a problem for somebody else. And one of the things that ends up being interesting is when you have the combat classes, right? There are classes that are explicitly better at fighting than others. So if you think you can avoid all the combats, you don't need to bring a fighter or a guardian or with you. Like, that's fine. You can leave them at home. But if you have an entire group that's all non-combat classes or all classes that have limited combat abilities, and you get into a fight, you're going to really miss the fighter. But the sort of tactical element of building stuff on means that if you've got a fighter that's there and you can sort of enable that fighter to be cool and do their stuff, the fighter, anyone that critically succeeds, they critically succeed by beating the target number by 10 or more, right? So it's not, I rolled a 20, I critically hit, maybe you did. But, if you need to roll a 7 or better to connect as a fighter, which is not that uncommon, like fighters usually have a very good chance to be able to hit something. That means on a 17 or better that you're critically hitting. Well, if we can give that fighter an extra +3. All right, well, that's now a 4 or better. Oh, we can give the fighter an extra die roll. So now they're rolling twice and taking the higher in a 4 or better. Oh, and when the fighter crits, they do maximum damage. So they don't roll 2 dice. They just, whatever damage they would have done, they max it out. And then they also give a benefit to the rest of the party because the fighter is not only a combat class, they're a leadership class. So now we get their martial prowess. We get to get all these benefits, and now we can sort of keep the chain rolling. You just have these things of like, oh, I get a benefit if the fighter crits. So now we have a reason to work together, to position the fighter, to help them out, to give them benefits and all that sort of stuff.
Nice. So, one of the things that I find a bit annoying about D&D 5th edition is like character classes can be a bit of a silo. It's like literally, 100%. I mean, like, you can do everything. There's no reason to cooperate. We're just here because we happen to be in the same place. But yeah, I like systems that encourage players working together.
Yeah, and in this game, there's 3. 3 is an important number for all the game design stuff. Like the spells are all 3 words. They're called forms. It's your power source, your verb, and your manifestation. Okay. What your goal is, what you're pulling power from, and what it looks like. But then the classes are the same way. The classes are leadership classes, combat classes, and utility classes. And then different classes will be mixtures, right? So the fighter is combat and leadership. The guardian is pure combat. The rogue is combat and utility. And when you're going to kind of build your group, right? When the sort of team selection things happen, and that pre-conversation for, oh, we want to go on an adventure, you can sort of think, okay, well, we're going to go on a diplomatic mission to go talk to these people that are way over here. So we need to have a diplomat along, but we also probably need some utility people that have got some really good overland travel skills so we can make it there without dying. And we probably don't need a combat person, but maybe we'll bring like one combat person along. So you have this sort of team building element that comes into it, which then gets, like we were talking about way earlier, where someone will say, hey, I really want, this one person, right? We need a fighter. We've got a high level fighter we can bring along to this. But it also could be, we know we're going to go investigate this graveyard that has this crazy undead activity. Hey, who in the campaign has the highest occultism skill? Who is the best person with occult magic? Hey, Harland, you're the iconic wizard. You're the occultist. You've got master occultism. Man, what can we do to have Harland be the one that comes with us to the graveyard? Because it's that social dynamic, that social element.
Basically, what I'm getting is that, again, that's another layer on top of the game. So I'll be honest, I did not expect a game about magical mice to be this deep.
Yeah, it's one of the things that I struggle with a lot, trying to pitch the game to people. It's like if you go to recommend a show to somebody and you're like, you should watch this show, it gets really, really good 2 seasons in, right? Where it's like, you're going to enjoy it on the way there, but you won't understand why I say that this is my favorite show ever until the end of the first 20 something episodes, right? It's hard to give that recommendation. It's hard to take that recommendation because, if they're like, oh man, this is the best, my favorite book series ever. And one of them is the Dresden Files. And if I recommend that to a friend and they read the first book of the Dresden Files and they go, I mean, that was okay. Like, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't, I don't see why this is your best series ever. And it's like, well, I'm thinking of it 9 or 10 books into the series this is this amazing thing that retroactively makes all this other stuff better. The same thing with a Wes March's campaign where, it's hard to tell somebody like the game is going to be fun just sitting down to play. It's going to be cool. You won't understand why I'm so passionate about this until you get off from work one day, you open up Discord, and you've got a DM from someone that you played with 2 weeks ago that says, hey, I really had a blast playing with Emmett, and they made it to where we could get to some place that I don't think we could have gotten otherwise. I've got this crazy idea to make it into the bamboo thicket. Do you think Emmett would be able to come with us? And what does your schedule look like for next week? That's the sauce, right? But it's hard to explain that because you have to play for a little while to get into the community and to really understand that is really the element. It's yes, the game is good. Yes, the game has all these elements that support that community thing. But at the end of the day, it's that being part of a group, being part of a community, working with each other. We haven't even talked about the influence, right? When you level up, there's meta progression for your characters. Your noble family, as they gain influence, will then put their influence in doing certain things. The character on screen right now is Emmett, the iconic druid. And the first thing that he did is his family went through all the requirements to be able to build a hospital. And so his family owned the hospital and would help people recover from all of their injuries because recovery is a big deal in the game. And which then, again, creates this another layer of social dynamic of, you can use my hospital, but I want to use your library because I have something I want to research, or I want to use this person's arena because I want to re-roll my health from last level, or all these different things.
The end is saying mice together is strong. Yeah, I mean, like that's that seems to be the general message of this.
Yeah, and it is something we get to play around with a lot when we talk about other like races and other species, right? We talked very briefly about the weasels, but like the weasels are very cutthroat with one another. They're very like War of the Roses style, trying to find out who's going to be the Baron above all, but they are also slavers, right? They control entire swaths of mice slaves that they work them until they die and then they eat them. That's not a fun society to be around. And the squirrels do also work together, but they work together in a caste system. They work together in a very stratified system. The rats will work together, but they work together in very small, close-knit family groups. They'll only care about my like brothers and sisters and stuff. You get to like uncle is a maybe, but a cousin, probably I don't care about them. But the mice have this very mice together strong mentality, which sets them apart from the other races.
I also remember this had this kind of glyph alphabet for.
Yeah, that's the in-world alphabet for this age, for the age of the counties, which is what they played in, and that is actually what it says above there. It's Eknoyeb. That's what it says in the stuff. And this is also showing you the other two styles of artwork. So you have Jesse does these amazing high quality, like the Baron, right? Or the cover art. And then you have these more cartoony-esque things like Eknoyeb on the top left. But then when you go through the rule book, you'll also have what we call the minion artwork. And so if you look just below Eknoyeb's sword hilt, you can see there's a little miniature version of Eknoyeb that has the little sparkle that is denoting that crystal in Eknoyeb's eye. So each of the characters has a little thing that identifies their minion, so that when we go and explain stuff in the rules and we have these little comics and little artwork that show you, oh, this is how this is going to work. This is going to explain how this stuff is. All of the icons have a minion. So you can see, oh, this is Eknoyeb, the iconic exemplar, that is the one that's doing the explaining here. Or, we can tell, oh, that's the iconic bard or whatever. You can break them all up and see what the procedure looks like.
I also love these little sketch diagrams. They're so much fun.
Yeah. And this is Stephanie again. Her artwork is so great, and it's so fun when that's a scene being captured for why we decided to change how the sleep spell works, because they found a powerful snake, and then were able to sleep it and then force maintain the sleep while everybody else stabbed them to death. And I was like, okay, that probably needs to get changed. Okay, yeah, Beyonce. You know what's funny? When someone said that the character's name was Beyonce, like I saw Stephanie like have a moment where it like broke her, because she did not do that intentionally, but then thought it was so funny that she didn't want to change the character's name afterwards.
Fair. Yeah. Okay, let's see. The end is saying, by the way, the Bloom Barrow set of Magic the Gathering lives in this same world, no joke. I'm not familiar with modern Magic the Gathering, sorry. So I have no idea what the Bloom Barrow set is.
Yeah, so the Bloom Barrow set was, I think it's still in standard. It's in like the current set of formats. But it was, one of the heroes was a mouse sort of thing. The Bloom Barrow set was pretty cool. It was interesting to see. One of the funniest things that happened when Bloom Barrow got released is there is a magic card that I don't remember the full name of, but the character's name is Glarb in the it's a big frog guy in Magic the Gathering.
Okay.
And when that card got spoiled, the Discord blew up because the chieftain of the South River clan in my game, his name is Glarb. And they were like, did you get it from that? I was like, no, it wasn't out yet. How, like, I made Glarb well over a year before this set came out. Oh, did they get it from you? No. Glarb I agree with the people who wrote Magic. Glarb sounds like a great name for a frog chieftain. And that's how we got there.
It must have come to them in a dream.
It must have, yeah. Glarb was one of the characters that they the group had a lot of they put a lot of pieces together to try to go after him, but he's a slippery bastard. They were never able to take him out.
So they keep chasing him from year to year, or how does it work?
Maybe. The other thing is that lifespans end up being a thing that's really important. So I hinted earlier a little bit at the idea, like the current age is the age of the counties. And there's like sections of years that'll count for an age where, if you have a culture that lasts up until winter happens, and you've got a couple of months where there's no culture and things fall apart, and then, there's life happens again and you go again, you maintain a certain level of continuity between this fall and this spring, right? And so if you do that year over year, you'll be able to maintain a certain amount of stuff. Even though Magic changes, you still have people that are alive. Mice only live for about 2 years. So you only have a couple of winters in order to do that. But at the end of each age, which is a block of years, you'll have a big chunk of time where Magic dies and isn't reborn for several springs. So whenever that happens, it's a complete reset on the society, because then none of the mice that are waking up in the next spring
remembered last. Yeah, I get it.
But that's just mice, because there are other creatures that have much different lifespans. So weasels don't live all that much longer than mice do. So they might be able to live for 4 years of an age, but they're not going to be that much different. But you have something like a raven or a crow that can live for like 14 or 15 years. Well, then a raven or a crow, they might be born at the end of one age and then be a normal crow for the 7 or 8 year gap between ages, and then get sentience again on the other side. And they might have a memory of what it was like in the before time. And because the way you get to keep a little bit more and more and more every time the age is going through, Your year one stuff, you have very little knowledge of what's going on in the world. You have very little society built up, but then you get to have a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more. So you have these relatively complex societies by the end of the age that then collapse and have to restart back over at the beginning of a new age. We've got like a crow that can remember the high society of last time, that can be there to see what happens as it restarts. And then you have these other creatures that are completely alien to their perspective. Because what is a box turtle? A box turtle that lives for 60 years, that has seen 4 ages of the world. The mice can't even comprehend that level of like time abyss. Like that's that moment where Bilbo is explaining this mythical story to Elrond, and Elrond's like, yeah, I was there. Like the same thing, but it's a turtle talking to a mouse.
I mean, the more I hear about it, the more the deeper and the more fascinating this gets.
I hope so. That's the goal. Yeah. It's one of those things where I feel like the start of playing the game feels a little bit generic. Mm-hmm. But then as soon as you start digging into the scenery, as soon as you're like, oh, well, what does this mean? Oh, what does this mean? What does this mean? Then you get into this world that really builds forward and have a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, I mean, like I can understand what you say about the start being generic, because it's you at the end of it, you're not just building your character; you're basically building up an entire mouse civilization.
Mm-hmm. And even when you're building your house, I talked about it slightly earlier about how magic works, or like magic items work. In order to get a magic item, you have to get it from loot in some way, but that's pretty uncommon. Or you have to generate. You have to create the magic item
by doing something very dramatic.
Right. You have to do something dramatic, but not only something dramatic that aligns with your character's words or your house's words. So, if you think of like Game of Thrones, if one of the houses is like one of the houses of Dorne, which their house words are unbowed, unbent, unbroken, you as a character or as a player are looking at that thing. These are my house words. When I get into a situation that might have a dramatic moment, is there a way that my character can make this scene about their defiance, about their unwillingness to budge, about their stubbornness, and about can I create a dramatic moment for that? That might not even be the easiest way to make it through the adventure. But if it creates a dramatic moment that's tied with my house words, then I might be able to encapsulate that moment into a permanent magic item, and my house as a whole grows stronger because I'm embodying the words of my house. And the reason my words of my house are those house words is because we embody them, right? It's a feedback loop. Mm-hmm. And it also means, because all magic items are created that way, that when you do find that random magic item, it has a built-in history. It has a built-in story, because you can't just go home and craft a +1 sword at a forge. Yep. It has to be made through dramatic moments. And the way that magic items will work for different societies will tell you a lot about those people, will tell you about those cultures, because it'll basically give you the equivalent of the house words for that species, for that society.
Okay, so since you were talking about ages, like, would the items survive from one age to the next, or are they just wiped clean between them?
So there are variant rules you can use that are included in the full body of the game. Okay. The general thing, items have a level associated with them, and they function very similar to the characters, where they're by tiers. The general rule is that all magic items lose 1 tier per death. So it's like, if you have a level 2 magic item and the winter comes, it's now just a pretty cool sword. Mm-hmm. It is not magical anymore. If you've got a level 6 magic item, so it's a tier 2 item, then it's probably a tier 1. And the only things that really survive like the death of an age are the the named items that are different, which are also going to manifest differently. They're going to be different every year. Like
the artifacts kind of thing?
Yeah, like the artifact side of thing. We showed the picture of Baron Bartleby. That thing that was done to his face was done by the Weasel Cleaver, done by this axe, which is an artifact that gets passed down. But the rules then explain, all right, if that's going to be something that maintains, it's not going to become weaker, but it's going to change based on how magic is different that next year.
Okay.
Right? It's an inherently magical item. So why is it different this year than last year? And like on individual magic items, that does change how they work, but it also will say a lot about the economy of the world. One of the things that was a big plot point in Campaign 5 is there in the Baronies, there is this point called the Deadlands. And within the Deadlands, there's this basically giant mausoleum full of all kinds of crazy nonsense, some of which is intentionally kept there so that the necromancers can have a ready source of cool stuff to control, but some of it's kept there for other reasons. And so the wardens of the Deadlands, which are these slave mice, this sort of noble, think of like, what are they called? The guys, the Unsullied from Game of Thrones, right? They have this they are slaves, but they have this warrior mythos associated with them. And when the players encountered them, they were like, man, these guys have some of the coolest true steel weapons and true steel shields, and they have all of this really awesome stuff for us to use, and they're trading it away for peanuts. They don't, this is amazing. And what do they want from us? Oh, they want us to make like custom mouse built by our special blacksmiths. They want us to make county made suits of silver armor. Well, we've got lots of silver. Like that's not a problem at all. Well, then they learn through the course of play, oh, last year's season of Magic, True Steel was anti-undead. So throughout the year, they had gained a ton of True Steel stuff because it had a practical everyday use for their society. And then this year, it doesn't do anything against the undead, but silver is anti-undead. So they have a small stockpile of silver, but man, they will use as much of it as they can get for this year. And so you have these built-in sort of reasons for the economies to want to trade back and forth. Because if you have enough money, you have enough power, you'll want to have like a good reservoir of like every supernatural resource. But you're still always going to have some things that are way more useful than others, right? You're still going to have the high demand stuff. And because you can't predict what that's going to be and it's always going to change, you're always going to have this engine for trade.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. Oh, I mean, like, I'll be honest, before the stream, I was thinking of asking you, like, okay, why would someone play this game instead of Mouse Ritter? Okay, but yeah. I think you've adequately answered that.
Yeah, it's so the default answer, the short version of that answer, right? I tend to think about things in the terms of why would someone play this game versus playing D&D 5e versus playing Mouse Ritter or versus playing Mouse Guard. And there are basically three different answers. Why you would play this instead of 5e is because it's a West Marches game. If you want to play in this play style, even if you just took the skins off, right? If you just made everybody humans, I mean, you're going to lose a lot of the game from doing that, but you can. Even if you do it that way, because the game rules build in the ideas of West Marches into it, there's so much less stuff that you have to change. So if you play 5e and you then bring it into West Marches, there's a whole suite of problems where you're like, man, well, we can't have this spell, or we need to move this over here, or this ability doesn't work like that because it's too strong if the game's all one shots, or there's so many pieces of 5e D&D that have this. We're going to have 6 encounters in a day, or we're going to have this certain balance of things that doesn't really work well together in West Marches. So that's my general answer. This is going to function if that's the game style you want. Now, if you want the 5-man band style play, don't play All My Stye. Like it's not going to work well for that. You can jerry rig something to make it work, but you're going to be fighting the system more than being supported by it.
And then by missing a large part of it.
Yeah. And by the same token, I really enjoy Mouse Ritter. You know, Mouse Ritter was one of the 2 systems that this game was initially based off of. But the problem that I have with Mouse Ritter is that while it does work really well for one-shots, it is very, very, very hard to level out of, to graduate from being able to be killed in a single swing, or being able to be taken out quite easily. Mouse Ritter characters never really get that sort of heroic vibe. They never level out of it, which is why the other system that I drew a lot of inspiration on early on from, Adventurer, Conqueror, Kings, it's explicit about those being the stages of play. You are an adventurer, then you level up to a conqueror, then you level up to a king. That idea of being able to make it out of I'm always terrified of everything is something that was very appealing to me. And you really can't do that with Mouse Ritter. And the last one, Mouse Guard, I think is probably the closest one that you could play with this system. But as someone who's played quite a bit of Mouse Guard, there are some mechanical pieces that are the narrative element that you are imposing upon the scene. And, for example, the idea that, let's say you go on in Mouse Guard, let's say you go on watch and I make a check and I fail. What that failure means isn't that if something was there, I didn't notice it. That failure means something is there and I didn't notice it. So the narrative is more generative in Mouse Guard, which is great if you're wanting a 5-man band style play. It's great if you're wanting something that's going to be a good story for you to sort of chew through as you go along. But it's not good for emergent play. It's not good for the idea of this game where you roll up a character and you go, well, they qualify for being a fighter or a warlord or an exemplar. Ooh, I have not played an exemplar yet. Maybe I'll set them out as exemplar. And you go to play the exemplar and like, oh, I don't have any skills picked. And then you roll up a random encounter and you find something that is way outside of your threat table. Like you cannot fight this thing, but you might be able to talk your way out. So you say, all right, well, I'm going to put my points in diplomacy, right? And so you get to build this character in these little pieces as you go along in the emergent play. And even when you do stuff for your magic items, that's not I plan for this thing to happen, right? Like I'm not buying it off of a shop, right? I'm not doing something like where I'm planning ahead. It's, oh, this cool moment happened. I get to now make a magic item with some of these limitations that is now going to encapsulate that cool moment. It has to be reactive. And Mouse Guard isn't really designed to work like that. So it can be really fun for that story style. But if you want something that's got a very strong teamwork element, it's got very strong emergent play elements, and that you can eventually play the heroes that are out in the world causing the problems for everybody else rather than being afraid all the time, that is the pitch for All My Side. That is the reason you play this over those other games.
Yeah, and I'm just also going to add that from what you told me, it's got more layers than a well-made lasagna.
I didn't understand the last part.
I said it's got more layers than a well-made lasagna.
Yes, that's the goal at least. And then the hope is, one of the other things that's very important for us for like support on the app and for support in the game. I thought I had the game binder upstairs, but I do not. When we were playing in the playtest, one of the things that I noticed, which was just like, it was the big dopamine hit for me. As soon as I saw that happen the first time and I saw everybody at the table light up, I was like, oh man, this is something special. Every game I have ever played or ever run in has always had some variation of house rules. Has always had, we play with this, but not with that. But I use this rule from this blog post and look at this Google. And like you have all these things in these different places. And it can be sometimes really intimidating to get started. The rules for All My Die, when the full game comes out, it's like, here's a packet that you make for, if you want to pitch it to a person, here are 2 pages and a way to generate your own QR code for your Discord. So do I think this is cool? What rules do I need to learn really quickly to get started? And then I can jump into the community and have people be like, hey, welcome to the game, and kind of pull you into what's going on. So they don't feel like they have to read very much, but also you can't plan ahead. There are no feats. You can't build your character a certain way. You don't pick your skills before you start playing. So you can jump into the game really quickly. And because you're always learning new things, because you're always discovering new things, if I had the game binder upstairs, I'd show you one of the moments that was powerful is when they unlocked the barbarian class. The barbarian class is a single set of 2 pages of paper. So it's like it's a 2-page spread with a picture on one side and then a stat sheet on the other. So it's 2 pieces of paper. The game binder, where it tells you how to set it up, is a 3-ring binder. So you go to the classes page, You click the binder open, you hand the players all the rules for the barbarian, and they get to physically add it to the rules to unlock the class and clip it close. Like I saw the faces around the table just light up, like they had a party in that moment. And having a digital resource that lets you on the GM side have a checkbox that says what classes exist in your game, what classes are they uncovered, and to be able to just check the box that says, all right, well, the barbarian's in the compendium now, and then just leave it open. And someone will eventually look at the compendium and be like, wait a minute, was the barbarian always in here? No. Wait a minute. Or being able to partial reveal a class, to be able to say, all right, you know that this exists. Here is what you get as the entry. This is the barbarian now takes, it takes 13 strength and 13 con to be a barbarian, and you know what their intro ability is. Now go find someone to teach you how to be a barbarian. That's fun.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, definitely a vibe.
Yeah.
Okay, and you're saying the Kickstarter would be around the end of May, you said? Up to May. And when would you be thinking about, when would the Quick Start at least come out?
So the goal is to have the Kickstarter the beginning of May. It might end up being the middle of May. Again, this is my first Kickstarter. I want to make sure it's done correctly. So there's a lot of things that I don't truly understand that I want to have finalized answers for. But the goal is, hopefully next Friday that we can get the Kickstarter launched. And that is for the Quick Start rules. The full rules will be coming out hopefully next February is our goal. Now that is our overall goal. However, because the full rules, the goal is to have the book out and pretty and you can buy it and all that sort of stuff. The goal is next year. If you play in the online campaign, so we're doing a patrons only campaign. So it's $5 a month. You can play as many times as you want, as many times fits your schedule. Not only do you get access to the rules, they just won't look pretty because the classes, all 21 classes are done. All the characters are done. All the spells are done. They just need to be edited. They need to look prettier. They need to get some polish and playtesting stuff on them so we can change stuff before we carve it all into stone. You will still get access to that. And also one of the things that I'm very passionate about is I want it to feel like this is approachable. And this is something that I feel like I'm getting my money's worth. So one of the other elements is for all of my patrons that do play in the online campaign, any money that I get from it, I think on the thing it's half of the money that I receive from Patreon from their subscription, they get a discount code for when the full game comes out. So if they want, if they've paid in $50, right? They pay for 10 months, they'll get $25 off the full game when the game comes out so that they can sort of have the ugly rules, right? The Google document version of the rules to play with and explore and really get excited about and be able to play. And, not every class has an icon, right? There's no iconic guardian. There's no iconic rogue. So if you want to have your character in the rule book when the rule book comes out, maybe try to make it to level 10 as a rogue. And you can claim the spot of the iconic rogue in the rule book. And you'll also be able to say, oh, well, I paid a little bit of money, $5 a month to be able to play, some people that play 3 games a week for $5 a month, pretty decent deal. Yep. And then also be able to say on the flip side, oh yeah, I get a discount as well. I feel like it could make it to where I have enough money to pay for cool artwork, and other people can actually have a game that they can play in.
Nice. I also dropped the link to your Patreon on the chat.
Thank you. Yeah, and for the Patreon stuff, just as a warning for anyone that goes there, right now the Patreon is just a couple of notes from me of some behind the scenes stuff. If you're on the fence about whether you want to support this project, don't support me on Patreon, because the Patreon is kind of in a pre-launch state. The people that are big fans are my current patrons, but when the Kickstarter launches, either at the end of May 1st or May 15th are the 2 plans, then the Kickstarter, the Patreon's going to change. The reward tiers are going to be up there. You're going to see exactly what you get for when the games get going, because that's what my Patreon is for. It's a little bit of people that are supporting me, but a lot of it is let's pool our money together to play really fun games and then be able to pay for artwork, because Jesse is amazing. but I'm sending that man thousands of dollars to be amazing on my behalf.
Okay, so you know what? We're just going to give you a little break now because I think you've basically been talking for 2 hours and you deserve a break. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at Discord and see what's in the community showcase. Okay.
Sounds good.
Okay. So first up, we've got campaign terrain, more work on his ship, and yeah, we have bunk beds for his ship.
Oh, that's cool.
Okay. Yeah, seems to fit a miniature. Interesting. And here they are in the ship itself.
That is very cool.
Yeah, I mean,
I do not have this kind of talent or patience.
I think in my case it's mostly patience because it's like you can't do anything if you do it slowly enough. But yeah, I mean, this is looking amazing already, and I know that he's also got crates and cargo and stuff. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to see this when it's done. Okay, and this is one is from Questboard Terrain from her Fay Week video. Got a nice to paint miniature there, and this whole. I'm not sure why this tree has spikes, to be honest, but it does look interesting.
Everything's better with spikes.
Okay, so Questboard Terrain mostly does these crafting and storytelling videos. And speaking of storytelling videos, your Fay Week video was really good. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you. Yeah, I do. In addition to running on my site, I do run D&D. I have a D&D group that I've been running for many years, and I like to do both. And the Fae are really fun in that series. What is that? Is that?
I'll be honest, I have no idea, but it looks amazing.
It looks like there's like a pitchfork in there. It's like a.
I see pitchfork spikes. This looks like a coffin. I'm not entirely sure. So at the end, what is this?
That is so cool.
Yeah. Oh, okay. It looks like a base of some kind.
Yeah, it looks like the base of the thing we just saw.
Yeah.
It's like a grave tornado or something. Because you got like the shovel and the Gruger tree really has spike. Yes, that is true.
Okay.
Is the Gruger tree the one that has the explosive like fruit?
I have no idea. And yeah, from One Page Rules. Okay, that's super interesting.
Yeah, that is super cool looking.
Is it translucent?
It looks like it is. It looks like the light behind.
Ah, okay, this is the render of it. This is what it should.
Whoa! Oh, yeah.
Oh.
That is so cool.
I mean, that's a whole diorama over there.
Talk about the centerpiece for whatever your encounter is. Like,
yeah.
Whatever your encounter was about before, it's now about this.
Yeah, I mean, like, when you paint this, I want to see it because this is going to look magnificent. Okay, I think that's the last thing in the community. I mean, that's some really good stuff.
Yeah, I also sent you in a DM. I sent you the my version of the sort of building crazy things, which is the point crawl map from we saw the pretty map, but this is the point crawl map, and each one of these locations on the point crawl has a full breakdown of what encounters in there, points of interest, things like that. But it is this massive mess.
Let's see if I can zoom into that.
Yeah, so the green box there is the counties. That's where the players start. And then the players have to, again, in Wes March's game, you have to end every session in town. Mm-hmm. So you can't get too far away from town in one session, but they were able to get pretty far away and go to all of these locations. And when the full game launches, one of the things that we'll be including is this is using a program called Obsidian. Mm-hmm. And we're going to include the Obsidian Vault for anyone that wants to use it for all of the encounters, all of the monsters, what's in. If you look in, for the people that are playing tomorrow, if you look directly to the left of that green thing that says the counties, you'll see that there are the bright green. Here you go. So I don't know if you're able to zoom in at all, but
those the maximum mechanism.
So the things next to it are Western Incline, Western Grove, and the West River Ferry. Those are the starting locations for the adventure tomorrow. And where you're going is that purple area, is the old Prairie Dog ghost town to the left of it. And so you can sort of see where all the pieces are, and you can see where the rivers are and the river crossings to make this world something you can actually play around with and be able to do a lot of things with, because random encounters are a big part of this game. So getting from A to B safely is difficult and often a big chunk of the adventure.
Nice. And you've got note. It's like every one of those is a note in Obsidian, and then you've got all the details, and it's just like what this vault is basically just one massive wiki, right?
I didn't hear the last part. Sorry. This is just one
massive wiki.
Yeah, it's basically one massive wiki. So each one of those things would have here's the point of interest. Usually 1 to 4 points of interest with stuff that in it. That point of interest might be an entire dungeon. It might just be there's a shrine here that has some rules, and when you go there at certain times of day or certain days of the month. Because another thing is important to a lot of very old school play, and in All My Sty is important, is the idea that the day is connected with the day in real life. So the rules assume that the default speed of play is that 1 week of real life is 2 days in game. So the day changes on like Tuesday and Friday, which means that, there are certain things that'll happen in the world that you then have to schedule around. So, the mystical altar that has the crazy thing, that has the ritual on the full moon when the planets align, you only go there when all those things are true in a normal story, right? You don't ever go to the ritual location on a random Thursday. But because it is something where time matters and you can plan ahead and this sort of stuff, if you find out, on, May 16th, there's going to be this crazy confluence of events that happens at a location. Well, now we want to plan for, May 16th happens in this 3 to 4 day window. We want to plan an adventure to go do that in that window. And it makes it feel like there's more, substance to the world when you can connect the two pieces together. And when you want to go play a character that's recovering, right? You're like, I have a character that's down 20 hit points and they only recover 3 hit points a day. I'm not going to be able to do that for a long time. But if I really, really want to go do it, because I want to go to that confluence, I'll only be down 8 hit points by the time the confluence happens. That'll be fine, right? Like, how bad could it get?
Layers upon layers. Yeah. I mean, I'll be honest, I'm really hyped about this, and I'm looking forward to playing it sometime.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to getting more people exposed to it. One of the things that I think is I feel very blessed. So Jesse, the guy that does all the more detailed art, he is also local to me, right? Like I met him at a local convention. He's like 2 hours from where I live. One of the things that I feel very blessed by is I feel like I'm able to sort of piggyback on. He likes the game idea. He likes the game itself. He has an amazing art style that I think I can use to really put this game in front of a lot more people, because I think if I can get people to give it the try, when we have people that would show up to our gaming night on Wednesdays, they're like, I was here to play Shadowdark, but the Shadowdark table is full. I mean, I guess I'll play a mouse. a lot of time those people don't leave. Like they will then come just for my game, which sounds like I'm being really arrogant about it. But it's one of those things of like the game, once you get the hook into it, then it's like, oh, now I'm part of a community. Now I'm part of a group. And we've got these exchanges going on. And, oh, you know, if you play in a D&D game and you play as a fighter and you're like, man, I've played in the same group and they're really fun to play with. And I've played my fighter for 2 years now. And, you know, I kind of want to play a sorcerer, but I don't have another, you know, a day in the week that I can set aside. And then I have to find a whole new group. But like, I kind of want to see what the sorcerer is all about. Being able to do that and just be like, well, I'm going to roll up a new character. Oh, I didn't roll up a sorcerer. Well, I guess this guy is going to go out and I'm going to play really recklessly because if he dies, I roll up a new character and woo, that one's a sorcerer. And then you can just sort of jump into it. It is this community. It has this sort of retention to it. That is really fun to watch people kind of dig into the community.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, there's that whole thing is like several games packed into one trench code, basically. 3 games in a trench code. So yeah, I'm going to call it a day now, I guess. But everyone, I left the links in the description and in the chat, so check out the notifications for Gary's Kickstarter if you're interested in this, and I hope you are. And tomorrow you're going to be running on Shadows of Arconia. Do you have the time?
I should have the time. I want to say it's like 8:30.
Yeah, anyway, I'll put the link in the pinned comments, and then people can find it there. So yeah, definitely.
I have it on the calendar in the other room. I don't remember what it is.
I will be watching that. I mean, like not live because it will be like 2 a.m. here, but I will be watching that.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing how people tinker around with the quick start. I've run the quick start now over a dozen times, and I've had 5 different DMs run the quick start adventure.
Yes.
But because it's such this crazy mess where, you know, there's so many different variations of encounters and ways that people can go through things, no 2 games of it are ever the same. It makes it always fun for me to run, and I never can feel completely comfortable because I don't know how they're going to approach stuff. I'm looking forward to it.
Okay, that sounds awesome. So,
Karl, thanks again for having me on.
No, thank you for coming. I mean, this has been a really fun chat.
Yeah.
Okay, so thank you again. Thank you everyone for dropping in and joining us. And yeah, we will not have a stream next week, but we will be back on the, I think it will be the 10th of May. So everyone, have a great weekend and have a good time. Bye.